Hello friends, welcome to my channel Together with Abhi. Today we are going to cover a practical demo of launching a Linux instance in EC2 service. We have already discussed the concept in the last video, so you can go and check that. So the first thing that we have to do, we have to go to services. Within services, there is EC2 section. We click on that. And here you can see currently we have no running instances. There is no virtual server that we have launched so far. So this is EC2 dashboard. You can see different options here. But let's go and just launch the instance so we can just create a Linux virtual server. So we come to launch instance and we click it. So you see here, as we had discussed in the last module, there is an AMI. AMI is the software part of it, and there are multiple options to choose from: AWS Marketplace, Community AMIs, or if AMI I already have created for myself. So we'll just go to Quick Start. You can filter on the free tier. We are going to choose Amazon Linux 2 AMI, and we are just going to select it. The second thing it requires is an instance type. So as I had told you, there are different families. General purpose, you can go to compute optimized, storage optimized, memory optimized. So there are different families as we had discussed in the last section. Now within that, there are going to be types. T2 micro, which tells you the CPU and the memory it is going to make you available. So we just select a free tier one. Now there are multiple options here. We are not going to discuss these options. We'll just go with the default one. Like this VPC section, we are going to cover in a completely new module. There are many other options. The options that could be of use to us, I will discuss them after the theory, after the demo today. Now let's go to storage. Within storage, you can see it talks about EBS, block storage, and there are multiple options: provision, magnetic, which we are going to cover again as part of theory later. So currently we are just going to add certain tags. Let's add a tag name. We're just going to go with the default values as of now. We just want a Linux instance. We just need to see how it is launched, how we connect that. So that is the purpose of this video. Security group, this is a very important thing. If in case there has to be one security group is just like a virtual firewall per instance. Okay, so if in case you do not create any security group, it is going to create for you by default. Okay, and but we can name it the way we want. So we can provide some name. Let's give it Linux SG. And what it says is it is allowing an SSH connection using protocol TCP on port 22 and from the source. What is the source? If in case you give this value, it means it is available for the entire world. Okay, that is why you can see there is a warning issued down which says rules with source this allow all IP addresses to access your instance. We can choose my IP also, but for now let's allow this for the entire world too. So just go on review and launch. So we review it, it gives you a warning. We know about this warning because we have configured it for the entire world. We will play around with security groups later, but for now just launch the instance. So it asks you to create a key pair. It is a private and a public key. Public key gets stored within the instance and you are provided with a private key. The private key is made available to you in a form of a PEM file. So let us create a new key pair and it will make you available a PEM file which represents your private key. Okay. So let's just create it. We create a new key pair. We give it a name Linux key pair, Linux KP. And please keep this, when you download this key pair, you have to keep it very safe. Okay. This is the only time you can have it. If in case you don't have it, you won't be able to connect to the instance that you launched. So let's just launch the instance. If you go to the logs, you can see everything is successful, but it takes time to launch. So currently it might be just in a pending state and it will take some time. Let's see. Yes, as I mentioned, it is in a pending state as of now. It will take some time and it will come in a running state. Meanwhile, you can check the public DNS domain name. We will use this public domain, or you can also use the public IP to connect to this. So let's just copy this for now. And other things are, this is availability zone. You can also configure availability zone as per your need, but by default it can put it in any availability zone if you don't specify any. Other things are just normal. Now you can see it is in the running state, so let's try to connect it. So you can see we have this PEM file as I mentioned to you. So we are going to use this private key. We are going to use the DNS name, public DNS. And as I had mentioned to you, if you remember, I mentioned to you in the PPT. Let's go back to PPT. I told you there are certain usernames that we have to specify. For Amazon Linux, the name is EC2-user, and the command we are going to use it ssh-i path of the PEM file, EC2-user, which is the username, @domain name or the public IP. Thereafter, we will go into this module, and using the specific URL, we are going to access the instance metadata. So we are going to do all of this activity now. So firstly, let's go and connect to the machine. So we are back to a terminal. This is the command, as I mentioned to you, ssh-i path of my key pair, my PAM file, EC2 user, the user for Linux, Amazon AMI, and the DNS name, or you can give the public IP. So let's run it. It will ask you, yes, we need to do it, yes. After this is already added. Now you see it has throwing some error, permission denied. Why it is throwing the error? Because it is required that your private key files are not accessible by others. So we need to go and check the permission on this file. This PEM file, does it have access, which provides access to the entire world? So let's check that. So yes, as you can see, it is readable by others and groups also, which is not a good security mechanism. So we are going to change the ownership of this file to 400. So let's do it chmod 400 and the name of the key pair. Okay. So after this, now the file is only readable and accessible by me, the owner, and now we are able to connect it. So you can see we are inside a new Linux machine. A new Linux instance has been launched, which is the user EC2, and it is an Amazon Linux 2 AMI. So earlier it was Abhilash. Now you can see we are within EC2 use. So this way we have launched the machine. There is nothing as of now. There is nothing ls-ltr, no count, 0. Okay, so it's a fresh new machine which has been provided to us. Now the other thing that we need to check is the instance metadata. So I told you there is a specific URL. We are just going to access that URL from the machine, from the instance, Linux instance that we just created. So let's just trigger this call. So we see that it provided us some values. Okay, so it says, let's say if in case we have to go and check security groups, we will just append this security groups value at the end of the same URL. So a new URL gets created, it provides you the value. So it tells you Linux SG. There is a security group which is by the name Linux SG, which is available. Similarly, if in case we want to do any other value, like you want to check something like let's say AMI ID. So you just replace security groups with AMI ID, and it will provide you the AMI ID, the Amazon Machine Image ID that we use to create this Linux instance. So that is all for practical part of it. Now let's just discuss some theory. Okay, so as we mentioned that we had to discuss on the following points which are left over. So as we created a new machine, we also came to know about public IP. There were certain IPs that were created. So there's a concept called as elastic IP. Okay, so we are going to cover that concept also. So you see the IP part here. So we are just going to cover the elastic IP also. So I'm just going to tell you about certain theory which will be helpful for us in the next video, in the next practical. So first is bootstrapping. Now there could be a situation wherein you would want to programmatically configure an instance and launch applications at the time of instance launch itself. Okay, so every time you launch an instance, a Linux instance or a Windows instance, you want to run some kind of a code programmatically. So you don't have to do this activity once the instance has been launched. You want this to happen automatically. This could be like an Ansible, Puppet, or Chef script. So there is a space called as user data. If you go in the advanced settings, we will see this in the next video. You will see you can provide a string or a file in the user data. For Linux, it will be a shell script, and for Windows, it will be a PowerShell or batch. So where there we will provide this kind of a script. So what it will do is, it is going to, as in when we launch a Windows instance, it is going to create a directory called as together with Abhi. Okay. So this is very useful if in case you have to run it for many instances at one go. Okay. So this is called as bootstrapping, and we are going to try it in the next video for a Windows instance, and we are going to do an RDP connect to it, and we will see that a folder has already been created called as together with Abhi. Okay. Now the second concept that we are going to discuss now is termination protection. Now we saw this option during the configuration part of it. There is a checkbox. Okay, if in case you enable this checkbox, it is not going you to allow you to delete or terminate your instance. Okay, however, there are certain exceptions. So why is such a provision made available to you? Because you do not want anyone to accidentally delete your instance. So you want some kind of a security. But there are certain exceptions like auto scaling, operating system shutdown command, and spot price change. Spot price change is something we will, and auto scaling we will discuss. So if in case these are the ways of termination, then it will still go and terminate it. Now the last thing we are going to discuss is elastic IP. Now usually if in case you see any DNS or public IP, it persists only on the instance that it is running and cannot be transferred to any other instance. Okay, this is a normal procedure. So your IP is tied or mapped to the instance which is using it. But tomorrow, if in case you change your instance, but you still want to have the same IP because you have configured it somewhere in your application, what you would want is you want something IP which is independent of the instance. So you can do that using Elastic IP. You can buy an Elastic IP on AWS, and you can tie this IP to any instance. Okay, and it is not mapped to any particular instance, and it will persist until you release it exclusively. So you might not even tie it to any instance, and you can still keep it. Okay, so it is transferable to other instances. This is very useful. So we will use this Elastic IP also in the upcoming videos. So guys, that's all for today. And we will also see how we can terminate it. So you just have to go to actions. We will do cleanup. So there is a way to stop it. What stop means is you have the ability to restart the instance after stopping it, but by terminating you are killing it forever. So let's terminate it. Once you have clicked terminated, it just shows you the warning, which is okay because we are going to discuss EBS later. Let's terminate it. So it is going to shut down this row. You might see for a while here, and after some time this row will also not be visible here. So that's all for today. See you in the next video. We'll carry on with certain more demos for Windows related machines. Uh, Thanks for your time. Please do subscribe to my channel. Thank you.